May get another little buddy for this cat here, and I'll call the other guy Caesar, so we'll have Caesar and Putin. Global domination, man. Cooperation between the global leaders and the New World Order, right? Cats will be ruling the world, right? Is that what you're going to be doing? Yeah. And this guy, he's like a dog, man. You know what he does? I put him outside, and I was outside the other day, and it was raining out. I just figured, he's a cat. Because I remember, cats usually they go see the rain for the first time, and they get in there, and they're like, ooh. And he's like a dog, man. He's like, it didn't even faze him. He's playing in the dirt. He's playing in the sand. That cat is like a halfway dog. And it's a weird cat, man. It's very loyal. He follows you everywhere. Anyway, but that'll be the global new world order. We'll have Caesar and Putin. East and West. We'll get rid of the Western elite. It's going to be replaced by a cat named Caesar, and the Eastern elite, like Putin, is going to be replaced by a cat by Putin. Same name. So that'll be it. Anyway, Bitcoins. I'm going to talk about Bitcoins first, man, because it went up to almost $1,000. I think it went over $900 last night. Now I think it's down to $540. So I don't know. 540, it ain't bad. And if you put $100 down, if I have this calculation right, back in October 2009, last night you would have had over $100 million, untraceable. But if your last name was Italian and you're from New Jersey or New York or from Chicago, they'd be accusing it of being a mafia scam operation, and you'd be trying to launder money, conspiracy to gamble, and everything else. You know what I mean? Right? But nah, it's Bitcoins, and we love Bitcoins. Well, whatever. Anyway, I was actually looking up. There's a bullion dealer out there that accepted them. So if you bought a bunch of bullion last night at $900 an ounce, you really screwed over your bullion dealer. I mean, $900 a Bitcoin. You're really screwed over your bullion dealer. But that's the whole point, because somebody's going to be accepting the raw end of this deal at some point. But there's one thing I never liked about it is, and this is where it kind of gets into this philosophy. We talk about silver and gold and physical money, being tied to the dollar, and it keeps them from inflating and issuing currency out of thin air and all this type of stuff, right? You talk about that, right? I understand that, but and it's also like you own the money because you have it in your hand, but it's physical. The only thing, Bitcoins really isn't physical. You could say you own it because you have your own encryption key, but what I'm smelling here, it's almost like a test pilot, or if it isn't a deliberate test pilot, it's almost like, because I don't know who the hell came up with this idea. If it's not a deliberate test pilot, it's going to be damn well a good test pilot in effect by saying, how do we get the public to accept money like this in encryption code? You know what I'm saying? Where you can have all electronic money, The mark of the beast. I think the public's going to demand the mark of the beast. They're going to think it's great. That's why it's going to happen. Nobody's going to force it. And Bitcoins is kind of the proof that that's what's going to happen. See? Anyway, stick with your silver, man. And, I don't know, people sometimes they throw me links on here, this proves this because I could throw this link here and this link. Well, I could throw you a link back at, the moon is hollow and it's run by aliens inside the spaceship, and there's a link on the internet someplace that says that. There's all kinds of stuff out there, but, I just use common sense on things. When I saw Bitcoins going up that fast, I was thinking, it's getting dangerous for the average Joe. I'm even trying to warn the prostitutes and hookers not to freaking accept Bitcoins, because the girls are going to get ripped off. Some lady last night was accepting Bitcoins at $900 of Bitcoins. She got She got about half her money today, practically. She got $540 of Bitcoin. So just kidding. But you know what I'm talking about. Some vendor got ripped off last night with these Bitcoins. It was bullion dealers, But that's going to make people back away from it now, because, they're going to say, wow, it's crashing. But, there's a good lesson also learned in Bitcoins, because it's what you call mania. I know somebody on this video is going to say, oh, it's going to keep going up. I don't know. I don't think so, because I'm almost smelling like a religious mania. It's like if people just didn't argue for it too strongly, maybe it would. But usually when I hear people start saying, oh, it's definitely going to go up and you're wrong and you don't know what you're talking about, it's going to go up forever and all this kind of shit, that's when it's like you almost have the religious zealots out there for the Bitcoins. That's when I know it's in a bubble, pretty much. And I think the same thing's going to happen with silver. Even though silver's like essential, it's the second biggest commodity, most widely used commodity in the world practically. The only one has more diversified uses is crude oil. And actually number one should be industrial hemp, but they don't allow it to be grown. Well, that's what's going to happen with silver too eventually. If there's a currency crisis, I think there's going to be a currency crisis. Guess what's going to happen? There's going to be a mania. And the silver tards, I'll call them that right now. The thing is, I probably would, if I would have had Bitcoins, man, I would have sold them a while ago, because I would have been thinking, holy shit, but I maybe would have kept a few and I've been dumping them in steps. But nobody's going to catch the exact top. But if you're doing that, you're ripping off the other guy. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. Now, it would be nice to say, hey, Timmy Geithner, here's some Bitcoins at $900 an ounce or $900 a Bitcoin. Fine, if there's people you'd like to rip off, But you don't want to do it to the average people. And usually it's the average people that get hurt. The people that are the Wall Street sharks with the money, they understand this type of stuff. They're not stupid. They look for deals. They don't look for something expensive that everybody's going, oh, we got to have it now, They don't look for that kind of stuff. So you're probably not going to be able to rip off the really sharp people, the really smart people, the really shrewd people. So, when bubble mania comes, just remember, if you're making out, you're probably going to be screwing over the middle class someplace else, So that's not really a great thing, But, right now, there's so many people telling us that silver and gold are bad investments. They're going to be bad forever. They're going to stay down forever. I still think that that 3-year wave, that's going to play out, because silver, it seems to be silver and gold, it seems to be every 3 years. Now, I was talking about yesterday with Israel possibly going to, attacking Iran without using the United States. They're trying to get together with Saudi. They're trying to get together with France. My whole basis is basically where I think the metals are going to super spike is you're going to see oil super spike, and there's going to be that big fear factor out there. That's where gold usually goes up a lot. There's a panic into gold, and that's when silver starts taking off. Just look back historically. Whenever oil went into a super hard bull run, a lot of times silver took off. It did, along with gold and everything. They all kind of run together. So a crisis in the Middle East is actually going to bring those currencies, those areas way up a lot, even though they're rigged. Now, I'm going to discuss a little bit about QE. I know QE is a scam for the wealthy. It's basically, it's almost like, just take an average person. Say you bought a brand new car, and you can't afford the payments on the car, right? That's like, say the bank is doing something like that. They're not buying something like that, but they basically have an asset like a loan, right? And they have something backing it up, right? That's what they do, right? Well, the government comes in and buys up the asset at face and saves the bank, right? So it's like say you bought a brand new car and you had it for a year, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't make all these payments, right? Well, if you knew Ben Bernanke, you can say QE, buy the car at face value, the whole thing, it's off the books, gone, and thanks, and I made a little profit, right? And I used it, and no problem, right? You buy the whole thing up face value. Basically, they're only doing that for the freaking super high-end banks, you know what I'm talking about? That's really how QE is working. None of that money's getting into the middle class, because actually, if they wanted, QE would work if If they printed money and they just put it into the productive middle class, actual real workers, people that work hard, blue collar workers that do stuff and have to need more equipment to work more efficiently and stuff like that. Say you had a business and you could, you buy more computers, you buy more, I don't know, I bought an air compressor yesterday. Say you buy more stuff to make it more efficient. A real worker bee, if you put some money into some people like that, guess what would happen? It would actually stimulate the economy for real. And what would happen is the actual money supply, you wouldn't even have to inject that much into the productive class because the money would circulate a lot faster. The reason QE is not doing any damn thing anymore is that it basically just sits someplace. They basically buy the asset up, the troubled asset from the bank, and then it just sits someplace. It doesn't go anywhere. None of that money goes anywhere. It just sits. They hold dollars. So it's not like it's a failed policy. It's a deliberate policy, man. It's a scam. I know what it was, man. I know what it is, man. It's easy to tell. It's simple to tell. Very simple to tell. There's nothing to it. There's nothing to it. But if we have a currency crisis and there's riots in the street and stuff like that, the banksters in New York City and Chicago or whatever the hell they were at, they're going to have a lot of hard time getting, I don't know, maybe Gerald Celenti's prediction about them being protected by special people might be true. It may be true because it's going to be a lot more difficult to hold your money in the future if the disparity between rich and poor gets greater. Now, part of the reason, the disparity between wealthy and poor in China has been allowed to go so long, and also in Russia so long, is because the elite in Russia and in China have support from the West. But if that system was actually put over here in the United States, if we really got socialistic, we're not. We're really still capitalistic. But if we really got socialistic and there was that much wealth disparity, it would actually fall apart. It would fall apart. The elite can't figure out every damn thing there is. And that's really what the game is. It's like too many people making too many little moves, and it eats them up. That's what happens. That's really what happens, man. The whole thing, the whole way they got it over on you is if you lose faith and you think there's nothing you can do about it. And sometimes religion plays into this because sometimes people will say, well, it's written in the Bible that this will happen, so what can I do about it, right? There's a lot of that stuff out there too. So sometimes I don't like that. You know what I mean? It's like if you fight back in pieces and everybody keeps a positive attitude, the problems of disparity and people having less goes away. But you remember, stuff doesn't come from the air basically out of nowhere. It comes from productivity. It comes from productivity, and that's a very important factor. And it's like it's like you just can't create wealth out of nothing. That's another thing too. But a lot of people are. When you're pumping this doom and gloom stuff, it's like they're playing right into the hands of the elite too. Because it's always about, us against them and all this type of stuff. First off, not all the elite are totally against you. And, second off, it's like, if you work hard, you should have a lot of money. That's another thing too. There's nothing wrong with that. But, there's always the problem where you got the people on the top that are scamming. And, obviously Ben Bernanke or Janet Yellen and QE and the big banks, all that's a scam. That's a scam. That's a scam for sure. But why do people bank with these institutions? I don't know. I never would. Somebody suggested, some of the large credit unions that are associated with the military. I think that's number one, to tell you the truth. The Army has them. The Navy has them. Why not? Why not support something like that? Why not? Why go into, if you don't like J.P. Morgan or Bank of America or Chase or whatever, why use them then, right? Why use them, right? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but I've noticed many, many times that people who are in business and they start to make money, they got to go with the big name because it makes them sound more important. And a lot of times they don't get as good at the big deal because they're still a small person compared to, what the big name is, And they don't actually, I don't know. I got my opinion on these big banks. I don't like their service, really, to tell you the truth. I don't like their service, so. And I mean, for business too. And I know they're always trying to attract big, small businesses and all this kind of garbage, because basically adding up all the small businesses actually adds up to a lot. But I don't like the big banks, to tell you the truth, at all. And I would actually, if I was a entrepreneur, anybody who said, if you really want to make a conscious decision to fight the big banks, besides buying silver, just make sure you don't bank with them. Don't bank with them. But, I do think that this Bitcoin's mania that went on, I don't know if it's correcting, and maybe it's going to go, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's going down to, like, it went for over 900, and then it's down to 540 now, and maybe it's going to go to 10,000. I don't know. But it sure smells like a bubble and a half, man. And, the more people that freaking tell me no, the more I believe it's a bubble. How's that? So, better off keep your mouth shut, because I'm really going to buy that deal at all. I would not touch them. I would not accept them. The other thing is with Bitcoins, it turned out to be that, they're paying, $7,000 for these special computers that can mine them. And, it turned out to be a whole big business venture behind it, too. Where investors are putting up money to get a return on their money, and basically, so it's become that the computer hardware is becoming so expensive to mine that it's getting it's almost becoming like the gold mining of the California gold rush back in the 1800s, right? What happened, right? I mean, they came out with people were panning for gold. They found nuggets. That was the early days. That's like the Bitcoins. And then later on, they came out with the hydraulic, systems where they could knock down a whole hillside with water and get all the gold out of it. The gold production got down a lot less in California. And that's kind of like the same deal that would happen with Bitcoins. It's like, people are investing big bucks in a lot of computer hardware. They're not getting a good return on the money. It's all speculative. But like I said, if they had some Italians out there doing this stuff, and they're from New Jersey, New York, oh man, they'd be saying this is a mafia deal or some crap right now. They would be. They'd be saying it's conspiracy to gamble, money laundering. I mean, forget about it, man. They would be. Actually, that's what I think Bitcoins is. Right now, it's like pure gambling and it's money laundering. Basically, it's all money you spend that goes way the hell up, and it's all tax free, and it's, because nobody's reporting this stuff. I don't think, right? Can I tell you, right? That's what it is, right? So I don't know. And as soon as it starts going down, people are going to get scared of it. So I don't know. I'd walk away from it. I would have been dumping it a long time ago, but it's a good lesson, because it's a good lesson in bubbles and manias, and that's Bitcoins is a bigger bubble and mania than I saw in so many areas of so many isotopes. So many isotopes went up thousands of times. Well, I guess Bitcoins went up. That's about what it did. So many isotopes, specialized isotopes, went up like a few thousand times, and they crashed. They crashed, man. I forget the numbers, but I remember like at one time, I think there were 5,000 an ounce or some shit like that, and then they crashed a lot. I forgot the numbers exactly. They went like this, some of these isotopes. But actually that's something that's needed, to specialized use. You can actually look at Rhodium, what happened there. It went from $200 to 10,200 or something like that in 2007, I believe it was, or 2008. and it crashed. What happened to palladium at one time in 2001? It went from, I don't know, $50 to, whatever, 4 times the price of gold or something back then, right? To well over 1,000, right? 1,050. So, but I find Bitcoins to be, but I was just warning the average Joe, because, if you already think you got a slew of money, you should be dumping that stuff. That's what I figured. I was sticking my neck out saying that, but I don't know. It looks like, the bubble is popping now. I'm not sure though. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what's going to happen with silver too. Silver's going to go up like into a mania phase, and it's going to crash fast. It's going to crash fast. I think $200 silver is going to be extremely high, but it may go way the hell above it. Way the hell above it. So, that's the only best thing you could do is, if you want to be conservative about it, is to sell in steps, because this QE game is not going to go on forever. That actually is a racket. That's a racket and a half. I like to sell. I just like to say this, Ben Bernanke, go buy this for me for like $100. Paid it $2 for it or something, right? Basically, and then short my balance sheet, and I'll hold the dollars, we'll spend them. You pay me interest on it, right? That's basically what he's doing. He's hooking up the guys on the top. That's a racket and a half, all right? But anyway, this Bitcoin's 2 things actually about it, and it helps relate to silver. It's going to tell you how much of a mania silver could possibly go into. Just remember how loudly these people have been screaming about it, and they're still going to be screaming about it, because, we don't know if it really corrected yet. And we'll find out in retrospect, some months from now, if it really corrected. And, they can't be wrong. It can't go down. Here's all the reasons, same old bullshit. And it's the wave of the future. Now, the one thing I don't like about Bitcoins per se is that I could see how people would demand the market of beast in a worldwide digital currency. They could be for Bitcoins, they could be for the market of beast in a worldwide digital currency. And I figure this, it's almost like this all the time. The people aren't, it's not the elite that are exactly the problem, it's actually the people. The people actually fall right into these traps almost all the time, and they bite things hook, line, and sinker almost every freaking time. That's a fact. So, I personally ain't touching Bitcoins for nothing. I wish I threw $100 down on them a long time ago and have like gazillions of dollars. But I didn't know that. I really ignored it. I didn't really think they'd go up like this. And actually, the people back then didn't think they were going to go up like this either. But, it may actually turn out to be that way with some of the metals. And, for some of the solid reasons we've been talking about over the last years. So when mania hits, it can go a hell of a lot higher than it ever can make sense. Just remember that. But then again, I don't want to be trading in silver for some electronic worldwide digital money of the future. So there's always going to be a reserve. Remember that.